Okay, so today we are going to have a look at a C2 Proficiency Writing task taken from part 2 of the Proficiency Writing paper. So this is a letter that was sent to me by a channel influencer, and if that is something you would be interested in, click on the blue button under this video and have a look at the membership options of the channel. And I can correct exercises for you and make personalized content like the video that you're going to see today. And apologies to Roland, who actually sent this to me about a week ago. For some reason I didn't see it. It was in my spam email. I don't know why, but hopefully that won't happen again. Anyway, without further ado, we are going to have a look at this part 2 task. It's a letter sent to a magazine. And I'm going to talk you through how I think it should be structured, and I'm going to say what Roland has done well, what he's not done so well, and hopefully you can leave some helpful comments at the bottom, because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not infallible. Anybody who's seen more than 1 or 2 of my videos will know that I make some mistakes sometimes. Anyway, let's just take a look at this writing. Let's get on with it. Let's go. Okay then, so here we are. We have the task that we are going to look at today, sent from Roland in Hungary. I've corrected a lot of his writings in the past, and now the one criticism I would have is there seem to be structural issues sometimes. He has a very vivid imagination, uses some great vocabulary. Let's see if this one has improved structurally. Okay, so a literary magazine, oh dear, that's the first small error, but anyway, that's not important because this is part of the question, so never mind. A literary magazine has asked readers to send in letters about learning lessons from novels. Okay, fairly simple, right? So what we're going to have a look at in this letter that he's writing to a magazine is, well, we're going to outline a novel, I think, give a brief overview of what the novel's about and what lessons have been learnt from it. Okay, so it says, you decide to write a letter referring to a novel that you have read. In your letter, you should describe the lesson you learnt, how you have applied it to your life, and assess how it is likely to affect you in the future. Write your letter. So in part 2 of the writing paper on the proficiency exam, you are expected to write between, I think it's, am I getting this right, 280 to 320 words. So that might sound like a lot, but it's really not. What's that, like a page of writing, I suppose, really. And we need to focus on structure. Okay, so what do we want? We want an opening paragraph telling the reader exactly what you're doing, right? So in the first paragraph here, I want you basically to tell me that you're going to tell me, the reader, what you're going to do in the rest of the letter, right? Essentially, you're just repeating the question, rephrasing, paraphrasing the question that you are answering. So I want to hear that basically you're writing this letter with the intention of answering this question about lessons we can learn from novels, and that you're going to tell me what you have learned from a particular novel, right? Then we'd move on to the main body. We want to see a couple of longish paragraphs. Basically, we're going to have to outline what happens in this novel. What is the novel? Maybe a little bit of the background, when it was written, the context in which it was written. And then obviously we have to get on to, in that novel, when we're outlining the novel, we need to mention what lessons can be learned from that novel, right? So we have to be fairly concise there, I would say, in the first paragraph of the main body, explaining what the book's about and what it teaches the reader, what you can learn from it. And then obviously how you've applied it to your life and how it will affect your future. So we've got a few things to write about there. So as I say, 320 words maximum sounds like quite a lot, but there are quite a lot of things that we need to touch on. So, and then we've still got the conclusion. In the conclusion, there's lots of things we can do with the conclusion. So we'll just read it and see if Roland's conclusion sounds good. Okay, I'm just going to get into the letter. Let's have a look. It says, Dear Editor. Okay, that's a good way to address it. Absolutely. I guess. Right. What I learnt from a piece of literature. Well, okay. First of all, that is not structured like a question. We have a question mark. So a small remark I would make there. Either you say, what I learnt from a piece of literature. That could be your title. But if you're posing it as a question, what have I learnt, right, from a piece of literature? I guess you could say that. It's specifically from a novel, but okay, yeah, all right. If I had to choose a book which I could learn the most valuable lesson from, or from which I could or have learnt my most valuable lessons, I would choose Bel Canto by Anne Patchett, right? Okay, so a bit problematic, that sentence there. If I had to choose a book, good, which I would say, if we're going to go for a more formal tone here, I would say from which I have learned my most valuable lesson. Okay, so a few structural problems within that sentence. I would choose Bel Canto by Anne Patchett. But okay, yeah, we know what we're talking about. The opening paragraph has told us where we're going to go with it. Okay, so now, outline the novel, tell me what you learned, tell me how you've applied it, tell me how it's going to affect your future, wrap it up in the conclusion, right? We have to be very concise. This story takes place in an unspecified South American country where the government throws a lavish birthday party in honor of the Japanese business mogul Katsumi Hosokawa. Sounds like it might be written in Peru, right? Based in Peru. No, they for some reason have the big relationship with the Japanese. I have a lot of Peruvian Japanese fusion restaurants here in Spain. Yeah, absolutely. What novel did I read from Peru? Yes, I know. The most meaningless thing I've ever read in my life, but by the celebrated author. The City and the Dogs, was it? La Ciudad y los Perros, I think it was called. Yeah. By what's his name? The guy who's married to Isabel Preisler now. Vargas Llosa, yeah. That guy. Anyway, good. Okay. That's a good introduction to, well, a good outline of what the novel is. Yeah, very concise. The story takes place in this place, in an unspecified, where the government throws a lavish birthday party in honor of Japanese business mogul Katsumi Hosokawa. Very good vocabulary, business mogul, lavish party, very good. We know what the novel is basically about. Okay. He is a connoisseur of music, so they invite the most revered soprano Roxanne Cross for the event. Okay, so they invite, so the government or the organisers, you know, maybe we could say, the organisers of the event, perhaps, rather than just they. But okay, they invite the most revered soprano. Nice vocabulary again. Roxanne Cross for the event. Okay. All of a sudden, a group of armed terrorists swarm into the mansion targeting the president. But he is not there. So terrified are the people. I like that structure there. Very good. So terrified are the people that they prepare for the worst. Right? Despite the mounting tension, Roxanne continues to sing the next consecutive days during the crisis. Okay. Well, we were going very well there. This is a slight mistake here, I think. It says, despite the mounting tension, Roxanne continues to sing during the following days of the crisis, or as the crisis continues, right? She carries on singing. She or refuses to stop singing as the crisis continues. Something like that. Okay, obviously the next consecutive days during the crisis is a bit clunky, right? So we'd need to find a better way to say that, but very good so far. We're outlining the novel. It's working, and I like the vocabulary. It's really good. Okay, so structurally better than other essays I've corrected by Roland. Yeah, so far so good. The soprano's exceptionally beautiful voice strikes a chord with everyone's innermost feelings. Very good, very good. Strikes a chord, yeah, very good, and very almost, very much an almost deliberately musical turn of phrase there. Very good. with everyone's innermost feelings. Surprisingly, they start to come closer. They start to come closer. What's that like? The terrorists and the hostages grow closer, or something like that. Okay. Jen, the Japanese businessman's translator, begins tutoring the illiterate Carmen, who is one of the insurgents. Okay, right, very interesting. Great use of vocabulary, and we're being very concise and outlining the book. This is going well. Are we going to have time to, are we going to have time to say what you learned, how you applied it, and all of these things, right? Perhaps we had to be a little bit more concise, okay? But we'll see. Let's see if we get there. They meet on the pretext of studying in the hideaway. What hideaway? We need to mention what hideaway. In a hideaway, maybe. But yeah, just mention that. We don't know what hideaway it is. Thereby they can relish the ephemeral stolen moments of love far away from the prying eyes. Okay, just the prying eyes. But what a fantastic sentence. Apart from those couple of issues perhaps there with the articles cause so many problems from one language to another. We never know if it's meant to be definite or indefinite articles, but absolutely brilliant. Yeah, they say they meet on the pretext of studying in a hideaway, thereby they can relish the ephemeral stolen moments of love far away from prying eyes. Very good. I just wouldn't put any article there actually at all. I would say in a hideaway. Excellent vocabulary, really good. Yeah, as I said, the only problem might be here that we need to quickly move on, right? Because we need to find out what you've learned from this novel, and we need to learn how you're applying it to your life and how it will affect your future, right? But apart from that, excellent. Let's see if we can get to the main body, or rather the lessons. When special forces surround the building, their fates are sealed, or their fate is sealed. So it could be a collective fate that they all have, or it could be their separate fates are all sealed. Okay, so obviously their fates are, no, their fates are, or their fate is, right? So a little mistake there, but I'm sure that's just a typo. Suffice it to say, isn't it? Suffice to say? No, I think you can actually say both, can't you? I think I say suffice to say, but I think I have seen people say suffice it to say, yes. Suffice it to say that the more closely the main characters feel the proximity of death, the more closely the main characters feel the proximity of death. That's like saying the more closely they feel the closeness of death. The greater. How would we rewrite that sentence? Perhaps we could say the more intensely the main characters feel the proximity of death, something like that, so as to not sound redundant. The more passionate they become. Now, I think this is a nice lead into what Roland has learned from this novel, the lesson that he has learned, and how he's going to apply it to his life. No, probably. And I like the way he's kind of summarized there. He's given us an outline of the novel, but then suffice it to say that the more closely or the more intensely the main characters feel the proximity to death, the more passionate they become. That sounds like the lesson that we learn. that we learn in this novel? No? Let's find out. Love and art play an indispensable role in this novel. It will come as no surprise to you that a confined space has the hothouse atmosphere for falling in love. Okay, brilliant. I think I would reword this slightly. Maybe I would say, it will come as no surprise to you that a confined space perhaps provides the hothouse atmosphere required for falling in love. No? Or something like that. Yeah? But absolutely brilliant vocab again. Much better structure than usual from Roland so far. This is really good. Okay, let's continue. It says, developing an intimate relationship between an offender and a victim has always been commonplace, which we call Stockholm syndrome. Perhaps I would restructure that sentence. I would say, developing an intimate relationship between offender and victim, comma, which we call Stockholm syndrome, comma, has always been commonplace. Has it always been commonplace? I would say is a well-known phenomenon. I wouldn't say it's, but that's just my opinion. I don't know if we would say has always been commonplace. I would say it's a well-known phenomenon. Yes, it's something that's been well established that it's possible. No? Right. But very good. Not only does high art keep tension at bay in the direst situation, excellent, but it can awaken their dormant talents and desires. Wonderful. Yeah, that's really good. Suffice it to say, okay, we don't want to use the same phrase, really, like suffice it to say, twice in the same, in two paragraphs, or in the same writing, I don't think. Reminds me of an Alan Partridge scene where he's written 42 times. Needless to say, I had the last laugh in his autobiography. Anyway, suffice it to say, art is akin to the legendary Shangri-La. Okay, are we getting off the beaten track a little bit here? I don't know. These trapped people speak different languages and they have diverse social backgrounds, but we consider a real that we consider a real Tower of Babel. Well, yeah, very good, okay. Be that as it may, they can make friendships and infatuate with each other and become infatuated, with each other, with one another. Yeah, very good. Moreover, most of the hostages are able to realize that they have been chasing chimera. Chimera, sorry. That have been chasing a chimera in their entire lives, such as pursuing lofty goals, money and fame. Okay, let's break that down. Moreover, most of the hostages are able to realize, they come to realize, most of the hostages come to realize, it sounds a bit better, that they have been chasing a chimera throughout their lives, maybe, or they have been chasing a chimera their entire lives. Right, okay, I can see what, something didn't sound right. That in is wrong, we wouldn't use in there. Their entire lives, such as pursuing lofty goals, money and fame. Well, I guess those are several chimeras, right? So we could have been chasing chimeras such as pursuing lofty goals, money and fame. Yeah, okay, absolutely. So that's part of what we learn, right? That despite all of these situations, despite their differences, when we're under pressure, when we feel the proximity of death, we become more passionate and we learn to unleash our talents absolutely. Okay, I can see several lessons that we can learn from this novel. Very good. Do we know how this is being applied to Roland's life? How he's going to use it in the future? I mean, it's very well written. But again, my worry was that we weren't really going to get to that. Okay, so in conclusion, I feel that the protagonists are given the opportunity to put many issues into a different perspective, right? Right, you put something into perspective. So I think you could say put their issues into a different perspective. The extraordinary circumstances have laid bare their delusions of grandeur. Wow, fantastic. To all intents and purposes, they are able to see beyond let's get rid of the article, social status and wealth. That was brilliantly written. It was brilliantly written. I don't think Roland has answered the question insofar as we needed to mention how he applies this to his own life and how it's going to affect his future. So that would be a big problem. Again, brilliant writing, really well outlined. It's a really well explained piece of writing. It's the best I've seen structurally as a piece of writing. It was very good, but really, we've outlined the book. We've mentioned the lessons that one can learn from it. How have you applied it to your life? How's it going to change your future? You didn't tell us that. Okay, so it is a big problem. It's really hard to be concise and get all of that information into 320 words, as you can see here. So let that be a warning. Any words of advice in the comments, that would be great. And as I said, if you want me to have a look at more things like this for you, then click the blue button under my videos and I'll do that. Okay. I'll see you all in the next one, I guess. Goodbye.